You know, that moment when you're writing maybe an important email or you're speaking up in a meeting and you sort of pause, wondering if you used I or me correctly, like maybe saying, please reach out to James or I.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's one of those grammar points that just trips up so many people, even, native English speakers,
Right.
people who've been using the language their whole lives. Sometimes I think people feel I sounds a bit more formal or maybe more correct.
Yeah, I get that.
But in that specific case, it's actually wrong.
Exactly. And well, that's pretty much what we're diving into today in the deep dive. We've gathered insights from quite a few sources to unpack some of these really common grammar pitfalls. The idea is to help you kind of cut through the confusion, feel a bit more confident. Our mission really is just to pull out the key nuggets for you.
And that example you started with, reach out to James or I, it's actually perfect. It really shows how confusing it can get.
Yeah.
But there's a simple test we found, mentioned in the material, that just clears it right up.
Okay, what is it?
You just remove the other person's name.
Ah, right. So you wouldn't say reach out to I, never.
Yeah, exactly. You'd say reach out to me.
So it has to be reach out to James or me. That quick check, it really works wonders, doesn't it?
It does.
It really shows how easily we can sort of overthink these things and, well, get them wrong.
Definitely. And it kind of sets the stage for other points where the rules aren't always, immediately obvious, even if you're pretty fluent.
Okay, right. So moving on from pronouns, let's maybe unpack another one that causes frequent headaches. Less versus fewer.
Oh, yeah.
You hear things like, there were less people at the event this year.
All the time. And the clear distinction here, based on what the sources are saying, is really about whether you can actually count the things you're talking about.
Countable versus uncountable.
Exactly. Use fewer for items you can count individually, like, people, books, cars, whatever.
Okay.
And use less for things you can't easily count, or stuff you treat as more of a bulk quantity like water or time or sand. Got it.
So since you can count people, it should definitely be fewer people.
Fewer people. Right. Okay, makes sense. Now, here's one that honestly I think makes a lot of people just choose a totally different sentence structure just to avoid it altogether.
Which one?
Who versus whom?
Ah, yes. Whom. It definitely feels more formal. And, well, frankly, in just everyday conversation, people often just use who for both situations.
That's true.
But strictly speaking, the rule is who is the subject doing the action?
Okay, like who is calling?
Right. Who's doing the calling and whom is the object, the one receiving the action? Like, to whom should I send the invite? The invite is being sent to whom?
Okay. It's tricky though, isn't it? Because, language evolves. And how we use it casually is often pretty different from those formal grammar rules.
Absolutely. Which actually the sources do acknowledge. But knowing the distinction is still pretty key, especially if you're doing more formal writing.
Right, formal context matters. Yeah. And speaking of distinctions that really matter, let's talk about then versus than.
Oh, the classic typo. Or maybe not even a typo sometimes, like writing, I'm taller than my sister.
Exactly. And that's where the meaning just gets completely fuzzy. Then with an A is always used for comparisons, like taller than my sister.
Comparison A. Got it.
Then with an E is about sequence or time.
Yeah.
Like first we'll have dinner, then we'll watch the movie.
That one little letter, A or E, makes all the difference. And speaking of tiny differences with big impact, your versus your.
Oh boy.
I see your amazing, everywhere online.
It's incredibly common. It really is.
Yeah.
But your, Y-O-U-R, shows possession. It belongs to you. Like your car is outside.
Okay.
Your you apostrophe R-E is a contraction. It's just a shortened way of saying you are.
Right.
So you're amazing actually means you are amazing. That little apostrophe, it signals the missing letter A.
It really does change the meaning completely. And sometimes the mistake isn't even about spelling, it's just how words sound. Like people writing could've.
Yes. Oh, this is a prime example. Because we often say could've, right? Which sounds an awful lot like could've.
Sounds exactly like it.
But grammatically, it's always could've, or, the contraction could've, and the pattern applies to should have, which becomes should've and would've. It's always about that helping verb have.
Never of. Okay, and finally, a classic that came up in the sources, the double negative.
Ah, yes. Like, I don't know nothing.
Right.
Now, while that's common in some dialects and sort of standard English, those two negatives actually cancel each other out.
So I don't know nothing technically means.
It literally means I do know something.
Yeah.
To express that you have zero knowledge, you'd need to say, I don't know anything. Or maybe I know nothing.
Right. Avoid the double negative.
Yeah, basically avoid putting a second negative word like nothing, nobody, never, after a negative like don't.
Okay, wow. So what does this all kind of boil down to? We've gone through quite a few surprising grammar points that, well, even fluent speakers can stumble on sometimes. From me versus I, less versus fewer, who versus whom, then versus then, your versus your, could versus could've, and those double negatives.
Yeah, and the material we looked at really underscores the fact that getting tripped up by these rules is just a totally normal part of using English. It happens to everyone.
That's actually reassuring.
It is.
Yeah.
But knowing about these specific areas, it can genuinely improve your clarity and, your precision when you communicate.
Right. So as you continue using and learning English, maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, kind of inspired by our deep dive today.
Okay.
If even native, totally fluent speakers sometimes get these, fundamental grammar points wrong,
Yeah.
well, what does that tell us about the nature of language itself, Is there really such a thing as single perfect grammar? Or is effective, clear communication actually the real goal?
Something to mull over.
Definitely something to think about as you apply what you've learned.